Everybody, and welcome to our live Q&A. I am Dr. Andrew Neville. We're going to be talking today about adrenal fatigue and everything that it encompasses. There is so much connected to adrenal fatigue. Welcome to you, whatever platform you are on. I'm going to get to a few housekeeping things too while my team lets me know that we're good to go on our platforms. Thank you very much. And okay, so as you join in, please do let me know where you're from. So we have patients all over the country, international patients as well. So we're always curious where you're from. So let us know your name and where you're from. Just put that in the comments section. I do have my team is manning those comments. So if you have any questions or concerns, no questions, mainly questions about adrenal fatigue and everything it's connected to, by all means, put those into the comments and my team will get that to me. I do have a doc where people have submitted questions prior. I'm going to go off of that list, and it's a big list, probably one of our biggest, definitely most questions we've ever had. So I'm going to do everything I can to get to all those various things. I do want you to remember that this does not equate a doctor-patient relationship. So don't take any of this as medical advice. I'll do everything I can based on my 20-some years of experience in treating adrenal fatigue to give you the best guidance and that I can and answer as many questions as I can. But I can't give you specifics. If you are a current patient of mine, welcome. Sit in, listen, learn, enjoy, hopefully. If you have a question, you can put it in as well. But just remember this conversation, it's more for the public, right? And people who haven't been introduced to us. So I want to get to all of them first. If I have time at the end, I'll definitely try to get to your questions. But any questions, put out to the coaches, right? And if you're a patient, you know how to do that. What else? I think that's it. I mean, if you're a former patient or whatever, and you're coming back and you've been out of touch for a little while, just reach out. Again, any comments, questions, put them into the comment section, and Suzanne will grab those. And yeah, I'm going to try to get to everybody's question, but I apologize if I don't. We're doing these periodically, so we will do everything we can to get to those. That's it. Without further ado, so we're going to dive in. Jennifer says, I have adrenal fatigue, hot flashes, fatigue, wheezing, sweats, perimenopause or menopause. I don't know, 49 years old. So I'm on HRT, bioidenticals. Do I need to fix my adrenals as well as taking bioidentical hormones? If I don't take these hormones, will I end up older looking with brittle bones? Thanks in advance. Your work is really good. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Okay, so here's the thing. Women have been going through menopause for centuries, thousands of years without fancy hormone replacement, right? Whether it's synthetic hormones or bioidentical hormone, doesn't matter to me. Women's bodies know how to go through menopause. And the way they do that is pretty interesting. So it turns out your adrenals actually produce every ovarian hormone you have. Nobody really talks about that, but it is a fact. Your adrenals produce progesterone, testosterone, and some estrogen from that. That has a balancing effect on ovarian hormone output during childbearing years. It's most important after age 40, 45, where those ovarian hormones are going to gradually decline. The adrenals actually start to kick in their production of those hormones. And what that does is that eases women through menopause without a hitch, no symptoms. In fact, postmenopausally, when we test a woman's ovarian hormones, they actually originated from the adrenals, most of them. So when women talk to me about symptoms of menopause and perimenopause, I'm always going to go back to the fact that that is quite likely an adrenal problem, not an ovarian problem. Now, doctors, well-intentioned doctors will recognize, hey, your ovarian hormones are off. You have all these stereotypical symptoms of menopause. Let's put you on some hormones. Fine. But that doesn't fix the underlying problem. And the underlying problem is the fact that your adrenals, right, if you're having menopausal symptoms and if you need hormones, your adrenals are beat up over time, wear and tear from stress over time of any kind. that they can't come in and save the day during menopause. And that problem causes a whole lot of other issues. You can take hormones. I'm not against ovarian hormone replacement. That's fine. But you'll need them forever. And there's a whole lot of other stuff that's going to go wrong if, in fact, you have adrenal fatigue. And the reason for that is that adrenal fatigue is bigger than a problem with just your adrenals. It's a problem with your entire stress response physiology, which is, and I've talked about this on YouTube, so you can go and check that out. So there's a hormone side, a nerve side, and then this brain part, this limbic system in your brain. It works as a system. When that system is overused over time, it gets dysfunctional. And the problem with that is that system controls your entire physiology. Everything. Your heart, your lungs, your metabolism, your thyroid, your immune system, your hormones, your digestive system, it controls everything. And that's why the symptoms, right, of adrenal fatigue, they're so broad, right? We have the symptoms from stress physiology, like fatigue and pain and anxiety and depression, weight, blood sugar, all that stuff. That's direct from stress physiology. But then we've got all this suppression of your immune system, digestive system, hormones. So we start seeing all those kinds of problems too, secondary dysfunctions to a dysfunctional stress response system, which we happen to call adrenal fatigue. So the problem's bigger. And I know it sounds complex. Reach out to us. So I have patient coordinators offering, so we have a free, so it's a complimentary call, right, where you can have a conversation with my patient coordinator, most compassionate woman there is, and have this conversation with you to see what makes sense and all that. So again, we can get you that link. Just reach out in the comments below. Welcome, everybody. Let us know where you're from. I'm glad you're here. Tell us where you're from. We've got patients all over the country, international, so we're always curious. Amira says, I'm working with a functional nutritionist for my Epstein-Barr, and she's recommending Dutch test, stool test, and IgG. I'd rather not do all these tests if not necessary. Would your comprehensive cortisol test be enough? Yeah, so my comprehensive cortisol test would absolutely be enough. The Dutch test is fine. The Dutch adrenal test, it's a urine test as opposed to a saliva test. I like the saliva test better because it is a little more comprehensive and gives us more information. I used to do tons of tests on patients, Amira. Stool testing, neurotransmitter testing, the Nutri-Eval testing and nutrient testing and all this stuff. I do one main test nowadays, which is the test that stood the time. Basically, it's the test that moves the needle. Because all the stool tests, the neurotransmitter tests, the nutrient tests, they all came back the same because it's predictable what happens physiologically. If somebody is stuck in stress physiology for too long, we're going to see these predictable patterns. And it's not until we shift this physiology that we have a chance at balancing neurotransmitters or fixing the digestive problems or healing mitochondria or all of that. So I start with the basics, and this is the primary test that I will do. Now, the second test, and probably the only other test I would generally recommend, is an IgG ELISA test at times for food sensitivities, because that'll move the needle a little bit as well. If you're eating something you're sensitive to, which happens all the time, because that's what stress physiology does, right? Suppress the immune, suppress the digestive system. You've got this little environment to create food allergies. I found that if I identified and dealt with those food sensitivities sooner rather than later, people felt better faster. I think because it's a stress, right? So we scoop out that stress. It's one of these controllable stresses. So I might do that one at times, but the saliva test is really the way to go. And you'll learn about that. I see that you had purchased my core program, which is a great place to start. There's more to it, right? There's more to it. Most people need guidance and testing and specific guidance that way. So reach out to us if you have any questions that way. Shannon says, can people with adrenal fatigue fast? All right, let me deal with that one first. No. I mean, can you? Yes. Well, is it a good idea? No. You don't feel bad because anytime your blood sugar drops, like if you skip breakfast, let's say you're doing intermittent fasting, right? Because somebody might have suggested it. Your blood sugar is going to drop. Anytime your blood sugar drops, it's your adrenals' job to fix it. And only your adrenals' job. So there's a stimulus. Blood sugar drops, stimulus down your HPA axis. Your adrenals have to release cortisol. Cortisol's got to go to the liver, tell the liver to release a stored form of sugar into the blood so you don't pass out from hypoglycemia. Well, that's a stress or a to-do for your adrenals. And when that system, that stress response system, is overworked over time, we tend to make mountains out of molehills, right? So minor stressors don't generate a minor response anymore, right? Major responses, and it keeps us stuck in fight or flight. So do not fast if you have adrenal problems. No fasting, no intermittent fasting, none of that until all that stuff, the adrenal problems, are way in the rearview mirror. Second question from Shen, can POTS be caused by adrenal fatigue? Not really. They're correlated though, right? And I've talked about this on my YouTube channel. So if you go over there and you can look at POTS and dysautonomia, things like that. So adrenal fatigue is really a broken stress response system, threefold: brain, limbic system in the brain, hormones, and nerves, right? On the nerve side it's your autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system controls all of your organs, right? So when we go from lying down to standing, gravity's trying to push all the blood out of your brain into your shoes. That'd be bad because you pass out every time you stand up. So we have a compensatory mechanism, which is your autonomics, which kick in. So as soon as you stand up, your autonomics kick in and constrict some major blood vessels to keep blood in your brain. Well, POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So what happens is your body over responds to the stress of standing up, and it jacks up your heart rate, right? It's a form of orthostatic intolerance, which all adrenal patients have. So the POTS is on this side, the adrenal fatigue is on this side. Again, it's all one problem, which is a broken stress response physiology. So we deal with all that stuff all the time. And again, any further questions, just reach out to my patient coordinator. We can put a post or comment in the link below, or in the comments below. We'll put a link to that. Yeah. All right. Kristen says, I did a 4-point saliva test through Thorne. My results were not what I expected. Is it possible my high stress for the time period affects the test and DHEA levels were off? Okay. So there's a lot to that, Kristen. I can't give you specifics with regard to your test, but what I will tell you is that the initial test that I do for patients is oftentimes not a great baseline test, meaning all my patients come into me and they're generally stressed out, which means they're producing as much cortisol and DHEA as they can, but that might be artificially high. So if I was able to take you and put you on a beach in Jamaica and just feed you fruity drinks and not stress you out for a month, that would probably give us a better indicator of your true baseline, and chances are your cortisols and DHEA would probably end up dropping down. But that's what happens with stress. Cortisol goes up, DHEA goes up. So chances are it's somewhere in there. I do tend to prefer the test that we use that way. And sadly, I've seen doctors run these tests. Sometimes you can do it on your own, but I've seen doctors run these tests and I've seen them misinterpreted hundreds and hundreds of times, which is pretty frustrating because patients will come in, they're like, yeah, I got this test 2 years ago. My doctor said it wasn't that bad. And I look at the test, and just because I've seen thousands of these tests, I'm like, this was a major problem back then. You should have started treating this and dealing with this stuff back then. It's super frustrating, but very common. So you need the right test, and you need somebody who knows what they're doing to evaluate that test. Good luck. Okay, Kathy says, my daughter's been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, Raynaud's, no relief. What can she do? Okay, so once you're diagnosed with fibromyalgia, if it's conventional medicine, you should probably kind of walk out the door, right? Because doctors do not know what to do with fibromyalgia. It is a diagnosis of exclusion. Technically, that's what they call it, kind of a garbage can diagnosis. I've ruled out every other reason for your pain that I can think of, but you still have this weird chronic pain stuff. Let's call it fibromyalgia. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know what causes it. We do. So fibromyalgia is basically chronic pain. Let's go back this way. Adrenal fatigue causes chronic fatigue and chronic pain. Sometimes the pain is severe enough you'll meet the CDC criteria for fibromyalgia. Sometimes the fatigue is severe enough you'll reach the CDC criteria for chronic fatigue syndrome. I don't care about those names, to be honest. They're two sides of the same coin. And the main underlying cause is a broken stress response system over time. Sorry for the balloons. I don't know. That's not something to celebrate. Some weird setting on my camera. Okay. So there's a lot to it. Right now, it's an autoimmune disease, right? The immune system is going to get thrown off with stress physiology. So there's a lot there. And your daughter needs help and the right guidance. By all means, I've talked about this on YouTube. So if you were to check it out, I do have a Facebook group called Healing Adrenal Fatigue Holistically. It's private. It's for the public, but you can jump on that. You can kind of observe and see kind of how we think about things. It's different. It's not a free-for-all type of a Facebook group like the Wild Wild West that's out there. And then, of course, reach out. If you have any questions, Kathy, reach out for your daughter. I just got off. I had a call yesterday with a new patient who joined in one of my programs, and mother and daughter. She was 16 years old. 16 years old. So this stuff hits. It hits young. I mean, as you look through what the condition is, I mean, it starts young, which is tough. It's tough. So, but there are answers. There are answers. If you have to focus on the why. Right? Like, so there's the why. You want to focus on the why, and then you want to ask one more why. Like, so I have this chronic pain, but why? Well, your nerves are trigger happy. Okay, one more why. Why are my nerves trigger happy? Well, stress hormone hits nerves and makes them trigger happy. I mean, we know that. That's documented. It's called central sensitization. Happens to the central nervous system, sensory system. So that's why a lot of my patients will come in and their senses are all heightened, right? They're like, Doc, I'm sensitive to the bright lights now and loud sounds and harsh chemicals and smells, even touch. Like somebody walks by me and touches me and I feel pain again. And that's fibromyalgia, right? Weird pain because of no technical reason, right? So this sensitization is a big piece of fibromyalgia, like it is with most of my patients. So there are answers. You just got to ask one more why. And I'm going to copyright that. I think that's going to be the name of my book. Laura says, can I get more detail on symptoms to pay attention to that indicate how much sea salt to take, when to increase the amount, when to decrease the amount? Are there signs to watch out for that would indicate I'm getting too much salt? Okay. In general, Laura, symptoms like frequent urination, lightheadedness upon standing, or dehydration are indicators that we need more salt. So the way I do this is I'll use those symptoms as well as test results to guide me, because it's actually one of the hormones in the adrenals called aldosterone that is the reason we need all this salt if we've got adrenal problems, right? Aldosterone tends to run with cortisol, so low cortisol, low aldosterone. And the problem is if we're low in salt, we can't hold on to water, which is why patients will urinate more frequently. Blood volume is mostly water. So now your blood volume's low. Now there's not enough, the elevator's not getting to the top floor, right? So you stand up too quick and, you're wobbly and all that. So those signs of low salt. Too much salt, you get headaches. The blood pressure could go up a little bit. I mean, you want to pay attention to that. Swelling sometimes, right? Like lines on your ankles when you take your socks off or the rings don't fit as much. It's pretty rare. If you've got adrenal problems, those symptoms are pretty rare to get too much, but occasionally it does. Sometimes it means it's too much. Sometimes it's just too much too fast, I've discovered. So you listen to your body and back off. That's one of the key things is you really just want to listen to your body and, get some guidance, be smart about it. Good luck. Nancy says, is there any way to completely reset my CNS, central nervous system, or rewire the autonomic system? I believe I have dysautonomia and want hope I can recover. Well, I can tell you, Nancy, that's what we do all the time. So there's a lot to this, right? So with the stress response system, there's a hormone side, nerve side, and this limbic system in the brain. You'll have doctors pay attention to the adrenals and the adrenals only, and they'll try to work on that. And they're right, but not only. Then you'll have doctors focus on the autonomic nervous system. And they're right too, but not only. And then you'll have doctors be like, oh, it's in the brain, so your amygdala, we got to rewire central nervous system. And they're right too, but not only. I just find that you can get out of this condition a whole lot faster if you pay attention to all those things all at the same time, which, we do on our program all the times, right? So we're always working on rewiring the brain, the limbic system, calm down the amygdala, relaxation exercises, and, there's a variety of things, supplements, nutrients, and fish oils and things like that to help augment that process. Always want to turn on the vagus nerve and dial in the parasympathetic. It's got to strengthen that muscle, because as humans, we're way better at sympathetic dominance and fight or flight, right? So we have to fix that. And of course, we have to fix that HPA axis, which you can't affect one of these systems or one of the pieces without fixing everything else. Or you can't affect one without affecting everything else. It's a whole lot faster just to do this all at once, which you absolutely can do. There's a lot to it. And most people need guidance in doing that. But there definitely are answers. And again, if you have questions about that and you just want more explanation, a little more guidance, reach out to one of my patient coordinators, complimentary call. And welcome. I see there's a bunch of people that joined in later. Let us know where you're from in the comments. We're always curious. Got patients all over the country. And it's okay to need guidance, right? With this stuff, we do. We need help. I mean, I'm a DIY guy, and I like to try to fix stuff on my own. I'm going to pull up a YouTube video and try to, fix my dryer or something like that, and, before I call somebody. This condition it's bigger than that. And I don't mean to paint the picture so that it's so complex that it can't be fixed, because it absolutely can be fixed, but there's a lot to it. I mean, we're dealing with the endocrine system, which is your adrenals, but your adrenals are then yanking the chain of the thyroid and the ovaries and testes, right? So those hormones are going to go the way your adrenals tell them to go, which pretty much means now all of your endocrine system is messed up. Well, it's also going to mess up your immune system, right? Which create almost identical. They're like the hormones of the immune system, cytokines and interleukins. They're all chemical messengers in the body, and they all talk to each other. And there's hundreds of hormones, hundreds of immune molecules. They all talk to each other, and they're all disorganized, right? It's miscommunication is what it is. And it's just not so easy bringing that back into balance. So it's okay to need help is what I'm saying. Justin says, any recommendations for patients trying to differentiate between Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, and Addison's disease symptoms and subsequent actions to take? Yeah, Justin, don't do it by symptoms. Those are two tests that you can easily rule those out. Get antibody tests for Hashimoto's, that'll rule it in or out. Get a cortisol test for Addison's disease, rule it in or rule it out. That's the key. Now, chances are, if we look at the percentages, not that those don't exist. I mean, most of my patients have Hashimoto's. That I don't really get too concerned about. Chances are you don't have Addison's. But chances are, if you think you have Addison's and you think you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, I can almost guarantee you have adrenal fatigue and this problem. And, the way to tell that likelihood, like I've got a system assessment tool, symptom assessment tool on my website, right at the top of the website. Click that 4 or 5 minute test, answer some questions. It'll spit out answers as to the likelihood you have adrenal problems. And, with the saliva testing we do, it tends to rule out Addison's. But Hashimoto's has to be done. You got to get those antibodies tested in the blood. Don't guess, just get it tested. Lauren says, I purchased your viral protocol and working through your core program. In regards to reactivated EBV, Epstein-Barr, does one typically need to add in additional support other than what you mentioned in the flu and viral protocol and core healing program to put this into remission? Do yours tend to reactivate after healing? Okay. So my Epstein-Barr used to reactivate all the time. And I was in med school. I was seeing all these naturopathic doctors, and then we kept treating Epstein-Barr until I finally realized Epstein-Barr is everywhere. Everybody's got Epstein-Barr, right? But mine reactivates all the time. So the problem is not the Epstein-Barr, because it's the same virus in everybody. The problem was me. Why? Well, my immune system must not be strong enough to keep Epstein-Barr at bay, because Epstein-Barr is a herpes family virus. We never get rid of it. It's always dormant, right? If our immune system's strong enough, it's dormant, right? But you never fully eradicate it, just so that it's not active. Okay, so if my immune system's not strong enough to keep it at bay, I'm going to ask one more why. What's wrong with my immune system? Well, my immune system was beat up because of stress over time, genetic tendency, epigenetic behaviors, and habits and all that stuff, right, which caused my stress physiology to suppress my immune system, my Epstein-Barr reactivated. That's what we have to fix. So that's what the core protocol will fix. My programs fix that a little better. Core is great. Core, just so you know, like core is my, it's a snapshot of my general modules and education modules based on the recommendations I would give to patients who used to come and stay here. I've documented a lot of that information. So that's in core. And we use a version of that in our Core Plus, which is our coach level program, and the program with me as well, which is Adrenal Healing Transformation. So we'll use a version of that. The core is just, it's information, right? You kind of have to do it on your own, which is good. It's a good place to start. But what is better is getting guidance, right? And knowing how to do stuff. Like you could read a book on how to play the piano, right? But I don't know, it's going to take you a while to be able to start making something that sounds like music. And if you want to make something that actually sounds good, even more. So, but it's a start, and it's a good start. Yeah, so Lauren, I would say, no, I mean, the flu and viral stuff is good. That'll take care of it. You got to fix the underlying cause, which is prevent the reactivation of Epstein-Barr. That's really the key. Above and beyond, you don't have to go. Can 4-day spots be a symptom of dysregulated stress response system? Yeah, so that's basically oil glands, right? That get irritated, inflamed, enlarged. It's connected a little bit, right? It's not necessarily an immune system type of a thing. It's more a metabolic type of an issue. I mean, stress physiology causes all kinds of problems. So I see a lot of things improve as we shift and balance out that physiology. Good luck. Brenda says, how we doing? About half an hour. Okay. Brenda says, why are panic attacks so prevalent in the morning, and what do you do to alleviate them? All right, Brenda. So when symptoms have a circadian rhythm, they are almost always going to be involved with your adrenals, because your adrenal glands dictate your circadian rhythm. The reason we wake up in the morning is because there was a trigger from the limbic system down the HPA axis to release a bunch of cortisol, which goes up, and then it should gradually go down, and cortisol should be at its lowest level in the evening when we go to bed. That response, that initial cortisol response, is an official thing. It's called the cortisol awakening response. And with dysfunctional stress physiology, we tend to make mountains out of molehills. So normally, so the first, stress of the day is actually waking up. But again, you don't just wake up, you wake up, right? Like there's a tiger. It's not just that the sun's up. There's a tiger in front of me that I have to deal with. Now you dumped a bunch of adrenaline and cortisol and you have panic attacks. That's one reason, right? Blood sugar's probably dropped at that time too. There's another trigger for your adrenals. So we have to deal with all these various aspects of these triggers and minimize these various triggers to be able to balance that physiology out. Now, what do you do about it? Or how do you alleviate them? There's a lot. There's no magic thing that I can tell you, just do this. It doesn't work that way. There's no magic supplement or anything like that. But when you fix the underlying dysfunctional stress response physiology, that stuff absolutely goes away. Absolutely. You could try a hypoglycemic diet, or I can't treat you because you're not my patient, but one suggestion somebody might have is to try a hypoglycemic diet, right? Snack before bed. Just a thought. All right, Sean says, would taking naps twice a day have a similar effect as meditation? No. Naps are good. Naps are rest. But meditation is different. And meditation is a piece, right? It doesn't have to be meditation, just some kind of a relaxation exercise where you're putting yourself in a quiet and calm place. You're closing your eyes. And the idea is you got to focus your mind on one thing, which nobody can really do, right? The mind dances away. but then you just catch it and bring it back. That process is very different, and that process rewires the limbic system in a far different way than just taking a nap. Taking a nap's fine, like you'll balance out that physiology, but doing this consistent relaxation exercise fully inverts this relationship, rewires the limbic system in a significant way. Ultimately, you should probably do both. But yeah. Okay, Randy says, I've been dealing with major panic attacks ever since COVID vaccine. I've had a very busy lifestyle, also childhood trauma. So to me, those things are much more concerning than the COVID vaccine. So I'm not sure. So I'm sure this just overfilled my bucket. Yeah, was diagnosed with vasovagal issues, which I feel is a Band-Aid term. Have you seen or treated this? Yep, it's more the same, Randy. It really is. Vasovagal just means, so vagus nerve, right? It's a dysfunctional autonomic nervous system. Not necessarily a cop-out. I mean, it's a piece of this, but it's bigger. And like you surmised, it's all about that bucket, right? Because plenty of people had that vaccine and did not have some terrible adverse reaction. It's those people when they got that infection or the vaccine whose buckets were full because of what you said, childhood trauma or very busy lifestyle. The bucket is full, and that was just the straw that broke the camel's back, and all of a sudden your physiology is just stuck here. So it's distracting, right? That straw that breaks the camel's back, that's distracting. And a lot of people want to chase after that, whether it was a trauma or a divorce or an accident or a toxic exposure or mold or Epstein-Barr or Lyme. That's like the tip of the iceberg. What about the rest of the iceberg that has been developing for decades prior that you still have to deal with? You can scoop off the top layer, right, and take that straw off the camel's back, but the next straw is you're going to have problems again, right? And that's what a lot of practitioners will do. They keep skimming off the top. Let's treat your candida. Let's treat your Epstein-Barr. Let's treat your mold. Let's treat your Lyme. Let's treat your heavy metal toxicity. Let's treat it, right? But you're just skimming off the top, and the bucket's going to fill back up. So what I like to do is let's fix the bucket. Let's expand your bucket to your greatest capacity so you don't have to keep chasing after all this stuff with these various practitioners. If you have to continue to keep chasing after all these various things, you're not getting to the underlying cause. Ask one more why, right? One more why. Why does Lyme bother you and not your neighbor? Why does your candida keep, you have to be treated 2, 3, 4 times a year and somebody else's doesn't? Why, when you had that mold exposure, your spouse didn't have a problem, but you did? And don't let people blame it on genetics. Don't go there. Somebody blames it on genetics. That's a cop-out. It's very easy to try to blame it on that stuff, but that's a cop-out, right? Chances are it's just your bucket was full and their bucket wasn't, and that was the last straw. All right, good luck. Brianna says, I keep gaining weight, even though I exercise, eat healthy, and all my lab tests are normal, thyroid, etc., and I'm in my 30s. Okay, so I don't know, Brianna, if your weight gain is connected with stress physiology. Certainly it is one of those symptoms of stress physiology, but so is pain and insomnia and fatigue and anxiety and depression and blood sugar and blood pressure, all that stuff. So my advice would be go to my symptom assessment tool on my website, right? drandrewneville.com. Take that. It'll look at the rest of the symptoms. That's really the key, right? That's really the key, is to look at the conglomerate of symptoms. That's when we can tell, is it likely that adrenal fatigue, which breaks, your metabolism breaks when you have stress over time. And that's where the weight comes. So I see weight problems in just about all my patients. And this is one of the most common underlying reasons, right? So, so check out that symptom assessment. Suzanne will put a link to that in the comments as well. So good luck. It's fixable, right? I mean, it's a sign that something's going on, right? Keep doing all those things you're doing, but you're missing something, and it's possible this is it. Kira says, do IG and AG? I don't know what an AG test. I'm thinking you mean IgG and IgA tests results change over time, or are the results always the same over time? So IgG and IgA, those are immunoglobulins. So they're classes of antibodies. When we react adversely to foods and we have food sensitivities, oftentimes these are IgG and IgA. They absolutely can change, right, over time. But they change because our physiology changes, right? And ultimately, we want to fix the problem. So I said earlier, like I'll do IgG testing sometimes on patients to check for food allergies or sensitivities. And if they're positive, great, let's deal with those foods. But you've got to fix the underlying problem, which is the fact that stress physiology is suppressing the immune and digestive system at the same time, creating that environment for food sensitivities. If you just take out the food allergies, but you don't fix this underlying problem, you're just going to develop allergies to the new groups of food you eat. So you got to fix, and I've seen that in my practice. I've had patients come in, they're like, doc, I can only eat chicken and broccoli. Everything else I react to. Because somebody tried to deal with the food allergies, but didn't fix the underlying problem. You've got to fix that underlying cause. So they will change, and they can change for the better, but you got to fix that underlying problem. That's the big thing. Okay. Rochelle says, could you explain what an adrenaline rush looks like and how it differs in the various stages of chronic fatigue syndrome? I'm not crazy about the name chronic fatigue syndrome. I'll kind of call it adrenal fatigue. But an adrenaline rush is an adrenaline rush. I mean, most of us know what adrenaline rushes feel like, right? Sweats, palpitations, motor running, buzzy, all that stuff. And you can have it in early stage, later stage. You can have it throughout. And that is a symptom that you definitely want to avoid. But it feels like adrenaline. I mean, most of us know what that feels like. We want to feel, right? In order to get through this and heal, we want to feel the opposite. We want to feel the calm, peace, and serenity of vacation mode. Parasympathetic, right? Rest and digest. That's where we heal and repair. That's the holy grail. That's what we want to feel, right? That's what helps us to heal. But it's trigger happy. It's tough, right? Because the stress response system gets trigger happy. We make mountains out of molehills. We tend to get stuck. Okay, good luck. Samantha says, is there a certain diet you recommend if you have adrenal fatigue, like paleo, carnivore, Mediterranean? I have Addison's and Hashimoto's. There you go. There's somebody with Addison's and Hashimoto's. So yes, there's a certain diet you want to eat. It could be anything. It could be paleo, it could be carnivore, it could be Mediterranean. As long as it's a hypoglycemic diet, meaning a diet that prevents your blood sugar from dropping. That's the key. And a hypoglycemic diet, it's pretty basic, right? Small, frequent meals, more protein and fat, low sugar and carb. And I've got a book that I wrote with my certified holistic nutritionist, Jermaine Coaxum, who it's a brilliant book, and she's got recipes and all that stuff, but I explain all that stuff, called the stress less diet for adrenal fatigue. And that is the way you need to eat, but it could be any of those various things. It's got to be a hypoglycemic diet. That's the key. Lori says, pulsatile tinnitus, what is it as it relates to adrenal fatigue, and what can you do about it? Okay, well, I'm not a neurologist, but I do have patients who have tinnitus or tinnitus, which can come and go. I'm guessing that's what you're referring to as pulsatile tinnitus. The nerves take a hit with this condition. We oftentimes will dump excess stress hormone. That stress hormone floats around in the blood, and it hits different tissues. All cells, actually, it hits. And when it hits the nervous system tissue, it makes it trigger happy. So it fires off at the wrong time. So I have seen a fair amount of tinnitus in my practice, and I have seen it improve over time. But is there anything I do specifically? Like, can I take this up? Like, there's not. But if there's other symptoms, that's the key. If there's other symptoms, look at the symptom assessment tool that I have. If there's other symptoms, that's what that's what you want to look at, so we know what we're dealing with. All right, lots of questions. I know, I'm trying. I don't know if I can talk much faster. My lips are dry. Okay, Billy said, Yeah. Billy says, I'm awakening every morning, 2:30 to 3:30. Very uncomfortable cortisol surge. Is this a symptom of adrenal fatigue? Yes. Or something more serious? Probably not. I tried Serafos, but it has side effects after several weeks. And So you got to figure out what's going on here, right? Like there's no quick fix for this stuff, right? You're dealing, and I'm not blaming you or coming down. You're dealing with the symptoms of a way bigger thing, right? It's like when other practitioners discover adrenal fatigue. It's like they just grabbed the tail of something that is like way bigger than they ever thought they were dealing with. So that's one symptom of a huge dysfunction going on underneath. And it sounds like you need guidance. Serifos is okay, but obviously if it's not working, I mean, there's other stuff that's going on. Reach out, right? Reach out. My patient coordinator call. It's a complimentary call. Feel free, but there's just more to it. April says, I'm just wondering if this could be what's causing severe anxiety and panic attacks out of nowhere. Likely. I have generalized anxiety disorder for years, but it spiraled out of nowhere, and it's a daily battle. Doctors say it's bad anxiety and premenopausal cause. Yeah, I mean, they talk about it as like anxiety doesn't have an underlying cause. This is the problem I have with the term anxiety, because when you talk about anxiety and depression, automatically people think, okay, that's a psychological problem, right? It's all in your head. And partially it is, but not only, right? If you dump a bunch of stress hormone in the brain, you'll see anxiety and depression. Now you can fix that, right? When people talk about it as a psychological problem, they're like, oh, well, it's just anxiety. I guess I'm just anxious. No, that is fixable. That is fixable. When you shift this stress response system, which is broken and shifted, when you fix that physiology, I see anxiety disorders go away. I see depression go away. It takes some effort to fix this physiology, right? But you absolutely can do it. So don't let them don't let them diminish or not address this underlying problem and just chalk it up to, oh, you have anxiety, or like these things are fixable. So I would check out, I would go to my YouTube channel, right? Go to my YouTube channel, look at how I talk about these things. Look at how I talk about anxiety and what it is, and see if some of that stuff doesn't start making sense. Because when you have adrenal fatigue and you understand what it is, finally, it's like if it walks like a duck, looks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, we pretty much know what we're dealing with. And that is fixable. That's the key. Sometimes you need guidance. Oftentimes we need guidance, and that's okay too, but that is fixable. So good luck, April. Don't settle. Don't settle. They're so dismissive sometimes. Victoria says, I have primary Addison's disease a year, hypothyroidism, lots of years, hydrocortisone, fludrocortisone, right. Sorry, I'm still learning low cortisol symptoms, trying to work through them. I love to travel, make road trips. I'm finding that stress traveling wipes me out, makes me a zombie. How do I prevent this from happening? I'm waking up in the middle of the night, unable to. Okay, so this is a little specific. Here's the thing. I have plenty of patients, and I've had plenty of patients with Addison's in front of me. And there's a lot more to Addison's than just throwing in a couple hormones, right? Because if you have Addison's, you have adrenal failure. And now that means your adrenals aren't responding to various stressors. So there is absolutely a way that you need to function and live and think and behave to be able to control the stress physiology. Because the other part of Addison's is there's also, it's going to be this broken stress response, right? There's going to be limbic system stuff that we need to deal with. There's going to be autonomic nervous system stuff, and even hypothalamic pituitary, and also, DHEA levels. So there's a lot to this that unfortunately conventional medicine doesn't focus on. So that's really what needs to be addressed, right? And it's complex. I'd say, you can reach out to my patient coordinator, set up. I'm happy to do a consultation. Even if it's just a one-off to kind of guide you and explain to you what we see with regard to Addison's. All right. But there's a lot more you need to do. Nancy says, what are your thoughts about CBN, CBD for sleep pain when everything else fails? Yeah, I'm a fan of CBD, with or without CBN. The one that I use is more of a broad spectrum, which is pretty cool. So I like it. I use it. I recommend it. Not the only thing I recommend, but it's one of the pieces of a bigger puzzle. And that's the key to fix this. So we ask about supplements, and that's okay. And supplements are fine. Supplements, I use supplements, right? But supplements alone don't fix this stuff. That's the thing. I feel sometimes like I'm a mechanic, right? And somebody drives in this car. Picture this, right? Somebody drives this car into my driveway, and it's this old broken down jalopy, right? Like that's, it's herking and jerking and coming, and then lands in front of me. It's blowing smoke out the thing, and it's like, so they asked me, right? My car doesn't really run very well. I saw this thing on YouTube where somebody put a fuel additive into it, and all of a sudden it blew some smoke and it fixed itself and everything was great, right? Like, can I do that? And I mean, the answer is yes, you can do that. But this car is 40 years old, right? And look at it, right? It's tilted. The cylinders aren't firing. Same thing. The exhaust is bad. The steering's bad. The battery's drained. The starter's bad. It's tilted. The rear end is sagging a little bit, right? And it's like somebody wants to kind of throw some paint on it and put some different oil in it and think it's going to work, right? It's more to it. Like, that's the big thing. It's more to it. It's deeper, right? What kind of gas you putting in this thing, right? What kind of oil are you putting? Are you changing the oil? Are you doing the maintenance, right? How are you driving this vehicle, right? Drive fast, brake hard. Well, 40 years of doing that is going to break this thing down, right? So, a paint job and a little fuel additive is not going to fix this thing, right? You can fix it, right? You can fix this vehicle. You can fix it, but it's a team effort, right? It's not like I'm going to fix this thing and you're not going to be able to fix it on your own. But as a team, we can fix this, right? Take some time. It's not going to happen in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. It can take a few months to get ahead of this, but we absolutely can fix it to the degree, and we can get it going, good as new. And what I can do is I can teach you what fuel to put in that car. I can teach you what oil to use. I can teach you how to do the maintenance, when to change the hoses, when to change the brakes. I can even teach you how to drive this thing so that it doesn't generate so much wear and tear. I can even teach you the warning signs of what to look for just in case this thing's falling apart again, right? To get ahead of it. So it absolutely can be fixed. All right. Sorry, that's a bad tangent. Okay. Kat says, this is a long one. Can I bring, I'm going to go right to the question. So there's a bunch of stuff there, Kat. Can I bring my cortisol up using your methods? Yes. Postmenopausal, perhaps. Sorry for the long question. Okay. I'm sorry, I might have time to go through that whole question. Yeah. So if it's associated with menopause, it's going to be adrenal problems and guaranteed. And we can work with that, and we definitely will. I fix cortisol levels all the time with the programs and, with these methods, right? Whether it's core plus, adrenal healing transformation, these methods can absolutely fix those issues. So, so we can get at it. We can get at it. These things do work. Yeah, I mean, I would do what you can as far as, get some guidance, look at core, look at all that stuff, but you absolutely can fix all this stuff. There's just more to it. YouTube, go to my YouTube channel. I mean, it's not the greatest, but if that's all you can do, go for it, learn about it. And there's a lot on there. There's a lot of information on there. So good luck. Okay. Sean says, what are your thoughts on the Pulsetto in particular? I've never used it. Pulsetto is one of these devices. I think it's a vagus nerve stimulator type of a thing. These things are fine. I've never used that in particular. I've used a variety of these devices, and I find them to be beneficial. I've tried a ton that haven't worked. Pulsetto, I just don't have any specific experience with. Sorry. Cod liver oil seems to increase my brain fog. Any advice? Don't take cod liver oil. Take a different brand. Take a different product. Take just fish oil. It's hard to say. No real reason why that would happen. So, okay. Carl says, eat many small meals and snacks if you have low blood sugar. But what do you do with high blood sugar? Blood sugar doesn't drop. CGM, regular prick test meter. Okay. So still high blood sugar, right? I don't care if you got high blood sugar, low blood sugar, you need to eat a hypoglycemic diet. Hypoglycemic diet, control the blood sugar ups and downs. Small frequent meals, more protein and fat, low sugar and carb. It's the relative drop in the blood sugar that's the problem. I have some of my patients that are diabetic. Their blood sugar drops from 200 to 120 and they feel hypoglycemic. It's the relative drop. Now, over time, I'm going to work with that person and get that relative drop down lower and lower and lower. I mean, I've got people doing that exact thing right now. It's the relative drop where you can feel hypoglycemic, but it not show up on a CGM. So the diet's the same. And the higher the blood sugar, the lower the carb, generally. Okay, 10 minutes. Danielle says, thoughts on low-dose naltrexone for inflammation and long-term use. I was put on that with T3 medicine for hypothyroid. Stopped both before I started this program. I was intrigued about the long-term benefits of LDN and if it can positively negatively affect adrenal health and progress, or would it be beneficial once I'm healed to maintain? I don't mind low-dose naltrexone in patients. I don't find that it puts any stress on the adrenals. It's more of an immune modulator, right? That's the big thing. So modulates the immune system, some central nervous system effects. To me, it's more of a superficial treatment as opposed to kind of fixing this true underlying cause. So that's always my goal, right? Is to treat the why, right? So LDN fixes this immune system shift. Well, why is that immune system shift there in the first place, right? Ask one more why. Well, the why is because stress physiology causes that immune system shift. Same thing with the thyroid. Number one cause of hypothyroidism in this country, broken stress physiology and adrenal fatigue. We know that stress physiology, that cortisol goes to the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid hormone axis and suppresses it. Every step it can. Fix that, right? Fix the why. So anyway, these treatments, they're okay. I'm a little cautious with T3 because T3 sometimes puts too much pressure on the adrenals. But either way, continue to fix that underlying cause. I'm not sure what program you're in, Danielle, but welcome. And I'm glad you reached out. All right, I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad you asked for help and get some guidance. So. Shannon says, can sleep apnea cause adrenal fatigue? Sleep apnea is a stress on the body, but also the metabolism and the dysfunction physiologically that comes with adrenal fatigue can actually contribute to sleep apnea because we got connective tissue strength and weakness. Now the palate can drop back. We've got food sensitivities and allergies. Now we get swelling in the throat, which narrows that tube as well. We've got weight gain potentially, which is going to come from the metabolic dysfunction of adrenal fatigue. So it's hard to say, right? But yeah, if you have diagnosed sleep apnea, that's not an ideal thing. You need enough oxygen. So, if that's the case and somebody tolerates, say, a CPAP or something like that, then use that. But I would also look towards like my symptom assessment tool, right? Look at that. And if there's these other symptoms in there that match adrenal fatigue, chances are that's the underlying problem. That's what you need to fix. All right. I'm running out of time. So, okay. Well, that's for me. All right. So I'm running out of time. If I don't get to your question, make sure to check on the YouTube channel. I've got tons of information there. It's searchable. We're organizing it into playlists and everything. So chances are I've answered that question. Plus, there's a bunch more of these, which you can learn from. And also jump into my Facebook community, Healing Adrenal Fatigue Holistically. It's an excellent place. My moderators are fantastic. It's focused on what I've seen work in almost 25 years of practice in working one-on-one with patients in the trenches, right? Not just doing this internet stuff, right? Not just making programs. The programs that I developed for this that work incredibly well. The best way to heal from this is to do those programs, right? Either the coach program or the program with me. Those work the best because there's a lot to this. Now, my coaches, just so you know, my coaches have been through my program, right? Worked with me directly, healed. They also have coach training, nutrition training, and certifications. And I put them through my own adrenal health coach training program specifically for this. My coaches know more about adrenal fatigue and everything that it's entailed than any doctor you can go to. My Core Plus program, which involves my coaches, works amazingly well. Amazingly well. So, there's a lot to this. Asking for help is okay. So I'm going to get to what I can in 5 more minutes. Sav says, can you explain how you use pregnenolone for postmenopause when estrogen is low? Have you been successful in helping those where COVID affected the nervous system and the adrenals? Sure. So long COVID, this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? Long COVID is adrenal fatigue, in my opinion. And the reason, so I'm going to leave that at that. So yes, I see those kinds of issues all the time. When we balance out this physiology, you're healing really the entire body, because you're turning on the body's ability to heal and repair itself. When the body's stuck in stress physiology, it's just not focused on those types of issues, right? That's the issue. I can't tell you specifically about how I use pregnenolone because I'm not your doctor. In general, though, I use pregnenolone, and I find it to be very safe, very effective, premenopausal, postmenopausally, low estrogen. Of course, there's no contraindication in any way with regard to that. I start with low doses and just gradually build that up. So I like pregnenolone. It's one of the safest hormones that you can use, but I can't guide you specifically. So. Shape Lounge says, all I can tolerate in the first 2 hours after waking is a green juice, just greens, no fruit. Would this be enough to keep blood sugar stable until I eat breakfast? No. So there's nothing in green juice to stabilize your blood sugar. Fiber, maybe if you're leaving every bit of fiber in that green juice, but it's you got to eat something, right? It's got to be carb, protein, or fat to give you fuel to be able to get your blood sugar up. I tend to like the protein and fat side of things because carbs tend to bounce things around too much. For my patients who are dealing with adrenal fatigue, I want to try to get something, even a bite of something that has some protein and fat, ideally within an hour of waking. I don't mind green drinks and things like that, but I just don't think they actually fix anything. They can detox a little bit, but I'm much more focused on eating this hypoglycemic diet. So if there's adrenal fatigue, I mean, talk about adrenal fatigue, but if you have adrenal fatigue, got to figure out how to eat that hypoglycemic diet. That's really the key. That doesn't sound like enough, at least for my experience. CC says, which supplements exacerbate adrenal fatigue symptoms? Well, the sad answer to that is it could be anything, because we as adrenal fatigue patients tend to be on the sensitive side, so we can be trigger happy to just about anything. That said, any kind of stimulants, right? That's the big thing. You don't want to take anything that you read can give you energy. Okay, that's always you want to turn and run the other way. If it can give you energy or is designed to give you energy, step away. One of the biggest things I'm cautious with is the adaptogens. I find that adaptogens, notoriously, they overstimulate my patients. So I'm always really cautious with adaptogens, ginseng, holy basil, rhodiola, ashwagandha. I'm really cautious with those. And it's also, if you use adrenal supports, like everybody tries to use, if you use those supports too quickly before somebody's ready, then that can overstimulate. That's a problem. Doesn't mean that those supplements are a problem. It's just that the practitioner, you get bad guidance as to when to use this stuff. It takes a little expertise to do it. Okay, Kristen says, if your estrogen is above range, progesterone is below range, metabolized cortisol, DHEA low range, hypothyroid, is it best to start working on the adrenals first? 100%. I always want to try to work on the adrenals before I'm dealing with any kind of thyroid problem, but or ovarian hormone problem, because the adrenals, the thyroid, and the ovaries, they all talk to each other. And I thought coming out of med school that it's like a 3-legged stool, but it's not. It's a bar stool. It's one stool. It's your adrenals, because as your adrenals go, they will tell your ovaries what to do. They will tell your thyroid what to do. And most of the time, it's not the right message. It's usually suppression. So the big thing is is dealing with the adrenal issues first, right? And oftentimes, I don't have to deal with the thyroid. I don't have to deal with the estrogen problems or the ovarian hormone problems. I don't have to deal with the digestion and the immune system. It's just, let's shift this physiology and stop suppressing those organ systems. They can kick in on their own. Our whole body, like our body knows how to heal. It's just that our lives, for whatever reason, our lives have us stuck in fight or flight all the time. And when we're stuck in fight or flight, all we're doing is gearing our bodies up for energy, right? To fight a battle. All the healing and repair stuff, that's over here, right? So that's what we've got to fix. So reach out. I mean, if you have questions about enrolling in a program, the most efficient way to heal is to get that guidance and support to balance that out. All right, last question real quick. I'm still in the 4 or on the hour. Do you often see low ferritin levels in correlation with dysregulated stress response? And does the issue tend to correct itself as healing occurs? Yes and no. They're somewhat separate. They can be connected, but they're somewhat separate. If you have low ferritin, you got to get your iron up. Probably a good idea to figure out why your ferritin's low. Are you bleeding somewhere, or excessive menses, things like that? That is a stress on your adrenals, but that low ferritin is not causing the adrenal fatigue. Chances are the adrenal fatigue is causing the low ferritin. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I think that I answered all the questions that are on here, but my team has told me that they move questions around and they take some of the questions off. So they're telling me I did not answer all the questions. We will be doing this again. I'm not exactly sure when. If you have any burning questions, reach out to us. I do have patient coordinators. If you want to talk to somebody, it's a complimentary call, to get some information and just some guidance and somebody to listen. Check us out, right? Check us out. Check out my YouTube channel. Check out my Facebook group. I am here to dispel all the misinformation there is about adrenal fatigue. And there is a ton of it. The fact that it doesn't exist, don't listen to that. That information is keeping you sick. It's wrong. It's wrong. This condition exists. Problem is, it exists in PhD level research. It hasn't trickled down to conventional doctors. But even doctors that believe in adrenal fatigue, once they grab it and once they find it, again, it is way bigger than they were led to believe, because it's a problem with your entire stress response physiology, and it is absolutely fixable. And when you fix that physiology, now you have a chance to fix your entire physiology, because we can hang every organ somewhere on this balance between fight or flight and rest and digest. I know that sounds big. I know that sounds complex. You don't have to know that all. But in order to get well, you sure enough should have somebody guiding you that does. And we're here when you're ready. All my best. Take care. Bye.